I'm just putting up the antitrust policy notice as usual. So this is at the beginning of every Linux Foundation call. As always, the full policy is available on the website, and we can also have questions directed to our antitrust policy counsel, Andrew Updegrove. All right, so the roll call is Russ, Naba, McCoy, and Mishi at the moment. If anyone else is here, let me know. Alrighty. This won't be a long call, just diving into a couple of key items. The project update, for those of you who were not on the third Monday call about an hour ago. We had our first bank conformant, that's Yoma Bank in Myanmar. It's one of the largest banks in the country. It's also an ethical bank. Perhaps a stance that took them into areas where, despite not distributing software, they decided to have the best possible open source compliance, and they also hired people out of communities like Ubuntu to make sure this worked. We announced them about a week ago, and we hope to take that momentum and engage with further banks down the line. Naturally, we'll start talking with banks in North America and Japan to get started, where we have significant leverage. We have new partners in Japan and Switzerland, both law firms. This is building out against our general strategic goal of ensuring that there's plenty of choice in each geographic space. We've had a series of community releases of documentation. One example is an OpenChain cheat sheet was released by EACG in Germany. It's essentially a one-slide overview of OpenChain that they use. More importantly, from our context today, is the Legal Framework for Open Source Software, 5th edition. The book by Till Jaeger and Axel Menzer is now featuring OpenChain prominently. This book has been, for the last couple of decades, the go-to book in Germany for open source law. And now OpenChain is deeply embedded in all of the compliance section, codifying us in the German-speaking area as the key solution for compliance. Nice win for us, and of course it will help build out our partners in Austria, Germany, and Switzerland. For those of you who have clients interested in tooling, our reference tooling group have released a set of slides which give an overview of where they're at. I'm highlighting this for the partners because a lot of companies are talking about automation, and a lot of companies have minimal knowledge and or resources to play with open source tooling for open source compliance. But we have a series of multinationals like Bosch, Siemens, Toshiba, Fujitsu, Hitachi using open source tooling for open source compliance in production for a couple of years, and they are sharing all of their notes in the reference tooling group. They're also working on a reference implementation or implementations to give people examples of how it can work. Their goal is to have a few turnkey reference implementations that companies of all sizes can download, double-click, and go. That's not to preclude proprietary tooling. We have vendors in our ecosystem. FosID, for example, is a partner. And the idea here is to make sure that knowledge around open source tooling is as available as knowledge around proprietary tooling, and also interoperability is straightforward and clearly understood. Moving on, status. On the project side, we've had continued growth of the partner program. We have a pipeline of 5 more partners to announce in the next couple of weeks. The biggest will probably be Osborne Clark, and the smallest will be a 2-person consultancy in Germany in the automotive sphere. So we're very happy with this kind of pipeline of announcements, and one of the announcements forthcoming is, of course, McCoy, who's on the line. And McCoy, I believe you've got a law firm and consultancy entity as you build out your post-Intel portfolio. Is that correct?
Yes.
So
I do both law and sort of virtual OSPO services.
it's pretty exciting, actually, to build out in North America with yourself and others. Even though we've had a lot of North American companies involved in OpenChain, we haven't had a lot of partner coverage. So it's good to bring out that choice. And as I said, the target is to have 3 choices in each geography and in each sector. So, for example, right now we've got 2 formal third-party global certifiers, and that means we're looking for another option or 2 for freedom of choice. I just wanted to throw it over to your side on status and check general engagement around OpenChain. What's your temperature on that? And conformance. Do you have people in a conformance pipeline? So I'll just throw that over to the floor.
I can go first.
Okay.
In India, we did a program with one of the very popular business schools, which invites a lot of people, mostly active in the startup arena and also in the tech community, and where we did a presentation to around 200 startup founders about general POS licensing. And that's where we talked very much in detail about the tooling and what OpenChain means and exactly how people should be implementing such projects there. Unfortunately, we were supposed to have an event this week. I was supposed to travel to India from New York on Friday and do a similar event because all those there was very good response amongst the 200 startups at that time, and they had wanted us to do another workshop explaining in general some licensing questions, but also about OpenChain, because that's what we are recommending in addition to OIM, 2 of the major things which people should be adopting. But because of COVID-19, I really have no idea when we will be able to do any of this. So in terms of India, that work is a little bit now TBD. In the US, frankly, we haven't done anything on OpenChain in the last month or so. So that's the short update from my end.
Awesome. And yeah, I mean, touching on COVID-19, all of our physical activities globally have been hit by a freight train. We were just talking through it on the third Monday call. Japan and Taiwan have elected not to have remote main meetings because they believe it's important to have face-to-face. China has had their Q1 meeting virtually. It was a mixed bag. We had some great discussion, but at the same time we didn't have great attendance and there were some issues with the conference call. Korea will have their Q1 meeting on the 19th. We'll see for Q2. I mean, do we have virtual meetings for Germany, India, and so on? We don't know yet. We'll have to pin it down in the next couple of weeks. All right.
We thought that we would perhaps do a virtual meeting, but that would only for the people who subscribe to the list yet, but not to the wider audience who had far more questions and curiosity about OpenChain. So that thing will be who's handling it right now in India. It's all under the discussion, but I'm sure we'll keep you updated about what's happening.
Makes sense. And, as I noted on the call an hour ago, even if we continue to have disruptions on the physical meetings and so on, it doesn't disrupt the project strategically at this juncture in time. We are going through ISO. We don't foresee any delays there right now. And we have our substantial corpus of reference material and so on. So that as far as it goes with becoming an ISO standard and being in a great position for sales and procurement departments, all of that is proceeding according to plan in Q1, Q2. The interruption to physical meetings will slow down some of the educational activity, and we certainly will want to pick that up later in the year. But right now, strategically, the project is maintaining course, and that's fine. Though face-to-face education and networking, of course, is taking a hit. And if this continues into Q3, Q4, we're going to have to really strategize on how we promote adoption of the ISO standard when we can't talk face-to-face. Alrighty. Does anyone else have any updates on general engagement around OpenChain and or conformance activities.
Hi, Shane.
Yeah.
This is Jongbaek from Korea.
Oh, hi, Jungbaek. Welcome to the call.
Yeah, thank you. Let me update our situation here. Due to Corona-19, our activity is quite reduced generally, but partly we can see some symptoms from recovering such difficulties, but not yet confirmed. But we can guess, and we hope it could be better in April next month. And then regarding partner activity in Korea, actually we are approaching the one major Korean bank who is very interested in setting up their OpenChain compliance program inside the bank and other their subsidiaries. We had a meeting with them 2 weeks ago, but the problem at the moment is that they were from several teams, and then everyone from different teams has got different views on open source license and compliance, what compliance is and why they need that, and so we also felt that we need to communicate with them more and more to make their level of understanding the same, regardless of which team they come from. So anyway, we will approach them again, and then we present them to get some self-components regarding their new products or further to other existing programs as well. And we also have planned to suggest one of our clients to try self-conformance with the OpenChain project in coming weeks. They have got advice from us for a couple of years, but they haven't done yet. But I think it's high time for us to suggest them to get such try such components. And then I hope they would get our advice, and then they would try such components in coming months.
Excellent.
And then further, as you know, our firm has conducted the open source compliance forum a couple of years. And then since we have been designated as a partner last year, we held seminars focusing on what is the OpenChain project and what is the specifications and how you get self-components, and then how we can help them. So the purpose of that, we also plan to a seminar on that issue this maybe Q2. And then recently we contacted one of the major Big Four accounting firms who is interested in working on this space. So we will continue to talk to them and then exchange our views on how we can develop this the OpenChain project, or some advice for companies in collaboration with them.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jungbaek. And I also want to say that I hope everyone in your family and your colleagues and friends is doing okay. I know that in South Korea it's been a very rough time with the virus.
Yeah, that's true. And then, Shane, as you might know, I'm coming from the Daegu, which is the center of it's just in southern part of Korea.
Yes.
But fortunately, my close family has not been affected by that. But still, it's my hometown, and I'm very sorry that they suffer such an unexpected, the first ever disaster. So I hope they would recover from that as soon as possible.
Yeah. Likewise, and I know that the virus spread really quickly in South Korea, but I understand that now the trend is good. The virus infections are becoming under control. So it looks like South Korea is the second country after China to maybe turn back the virus, which is a huge accomplishment. But I hope everyone continues to be safe.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying so. And then as of now, we want to be more cautious about future. But anyway, as I told you, we can see some symptoms for recovering. So we will do our best to continuously to get this symptom get down.
Fantastic. Okay, just throwing the floor open. Anyone else with any notes on general engagement or forthcoming conformance? Alrighty, moving on. Next steps. Okay, I'm in discussion with a potential third-party certifier. This organization has two sides to their certification. One is business certification and another is consumer certification. So for example, they help certify car parts, and they also help certify cars on the product resale level. So it's a global certifier based in Germany, similar to TÜV, and they're very interested in becoming an OpenChain certifier. That would provide our third global certifier, which would be useful. And in particular, they have substantial traction in the Chinese market in areas like automotive. So they would help build us out in one of our key strategic zones. As you may or may not be aware, OpenChain has an automotive work group, and we have the majority of auto manufacturers across Asia, Europe, and we have several of the American companies as well. The weak spot in our automotive coverage is China, so gaining traction in that market would be very useful at this juncture. Expansion in the US. As I mentioned, for example, we're welcoming McCoy to our partner program with his law firm and virtual OSPO company. We'll continue to build out relationships in the US. We expect to announce Osborne Clark in the next couple of weeks. And we're also in discussions with other major US law firms. This is a two-pronged item for us. On one hand, we're looking for pure freedom of choice, so people can choose between bespoke law firms or a selection of large law firms. On the other hand, we're also looking for, essentially, access through their channels, through their clients' lists, to further promote OpenChain as a concept and to further promote adoption. It's very similar to the way that PwC becoming an OpenChain certifier was useful to us for providing choice and certification, but also for gaining access to thousands more companies when it comes to talking about what do I do in open source compliance. All right, I'd like to throw this over to the partner side and just make two notes. One is that I think it would be really great if we could develop pipelines around conformance and customer engagement. I don't expect our partners to divulge their private or proprietary information, their clients' lists or anything like that, but I think it'd be really useful if we could have a general idea of the pipelines. For example, Are people seeing traction in enterprise, automotive, cloud? This would help us to understand where OpenChain is seeing organic adoption, and it would also help us to understand where our partners are putting emphasis. And the goal of this would be a shared understanding of market demand. If, for example, we identify that an area such as consumer electronics has exceptional demand for OpenChain, you will know where to focus your sales activity. We know some things. We know that OpenChain has been dramatically picked up by automotive. We know that OpenChain has significant traction in consumer electronics. We know that OpenChain has engagement from most of the largest enterprise companies in the world. But we need to have more market intelligence. So what I'd like to suggest is that in future calls, we have a quick round robin on the general pipelines that you see. For instance, if your company is seeing some traction in automotive, enterprise, and cloud, just to let us know that. And from this information, we start to build out the threads so that A, you can see where the customers are, and B, the project can focus on making material for those market sectors to build up momentum. And of course, once we build up significant momentum in each sector, it becomes easier to sell into new sectors. Does that make sense to everyone? Alrighty. Any questions or comments at this time? Or indeed, any objections to this approach? All right. So what I'll be doing, it looks like we'll have 2 partner calls a month. One designed so Europe and America can be on it. The other designed so Europe and Asia can be on it. I will go back and forth between these calls to make sure that the US, Asian, and European partners are aware of, for example, the market demand understanding, and they're aware of the general pipelines, so that everyone gets the same equal opportunities to focus their OpenChain related business. We're on to any other business. I just want to see if there are any questions, comments, or other items to cover today.
Shane,
Yes.
can I have a question?
Mm-hmm.
I read the news on the PwC Germany regarding their certifications. In case some accounting firm or other consulting firms want to be such certifier, do you have some standard requirements for that?
A very good question. At the moment, OpenChain is focused on global certifiers, and our main requirement is a strong reputation as a certifier or auditor. So, for example, TÜV has a history. In fact, their main business is certifying. PwC, of course, is an auditor, and as such, they have a portfolio of certification. So that's how we chose these certifiers. Now, that doesn't mean that third-party certification services are unavailable to other partner types. As OpenChain grows, we will probably want to have national certifiers too. So in a country, for example, we might want to have another certifier which is just operating inside that country. We haven't set the parameters for that yet. We don't know what our requirements would be. It's very easy with global certifiers because they're super easy to identify as the correct party. But we do need to talk with you, with law firms, with consultancies, about who would be appropriate and fair certifiers in nations.
Okay.
But right now, we have three ways to become OpenChain conformant. The first, self-certification. The second, independent compliance assessment. That's where a law firm or consultancy would check the self-certification plan and assess if it's appropriate or not in their opinion. And then the third method is third-party certification. So right now in OpenChain, we see that most of our partners probably fit into independent compliance assessment. They help their clients self-certify. That's where we currently see it. But I am open to exploring national third-party certifiers. It's just that we'll have to find a fair, equal way to do it.
Okay. Actually, after I saw that news regarding PwC Germany, I contacted PwC Korea to see if they have a similar department or team working on that area, but they said no. But in case PwC Korea is interesting, or other very worldwide accounting firm try to be certifier, as you said, on a global basis.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
Korean branch office Korean entity can also do that?
Yes, and just to clarify with PwC Germany, PwC Germany led the development of the third-party certification for PwC, but it is a global product. It seems that PwC Korea just didn't get the full briefing yet, but I can confirm that PwC can and will offer third-party certification in Korea. It is a global product. They probably just need to brief the Korean team. So what I can do for you is connect you with the lead on PwC certification, and they can make sure you have the information about how it can work in Korea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. This is one disadvantage of working with huge global groups. It takes a while for information to go through the organization. All right. Any other questions, comments, or business? If not, there we go. Thank you, everyone, for your time. It was really great to have this call. We will continue to have our calls each month, and I look forward to essentially building out the market for OpenChain throughout 2020. Have a great day.